How can you make a brilliant, well-crafted, emotional, and compelling story that still leaves a bad taste in people's mouths?
My name is Miles Morales. I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man.
I just finished watching Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, the sequel to the animated Spider-Man movie with Miles Morales, and it was fantastic in so many ways. It was beautiful animation, wonderful acting, emotional acting, a great storyline, until like the last 10-15 minutes or so, when it kind of seemed like everything fell off the rails in a way that I've actually done before, a way that many new authors, especially if you're being ambitious and wanting to create a series, might do as well. So I want to look at that specific issue and talk about what we can do to avoid it. Now, this is your point here where there will be some very minor spoilers here for Across the Spider-Verse. So if you have not seen it yet, this might just be a little bit of a wait until you've seen the movie before coming back here, because I'm not gonna talk about any like major plot details or anything like that. Just want to not give away too much so that you're at least get the same organic reaction that we're going to talk about here that I did and other people in the theater also did at the ending of the movie. All right, spoiler warning done. The ending of the movie left people in the theater, myself included, confused. It was a beautiful and wonderful movie, and I was enjoying myself for so long. And then at the end is just sitting back and we're like, what's going on? What? That's it? Because the way that the movie ends is on this perilous cliffhanger. A cliffhanger that is kind of set up in a very strange way. A cliffhanger that feels not like an organic end to a story. A cliffhanger that feels like the setup of the next thing. There are things that are somewhat resolved by the end of the movie, but there's a lot more bigger things that are never resolved. And in fact, more things are set up, but by the end of the movie than are resolved, leaving people feeling just confused because it doesn't feel like a contained story. And I think that's something that I learned in a very, very rough way when I was writing my first book, because I had these grand plans of I was going to create this series, this trilogy. And because I was doing that, I wasn't thinking of each book individually. I wasn't thinking, well, this book needs to have its own structure. I wasn't thinking that it needed to be one of those things where you actually think about what you're doing within context of that specific story. And I think that's kind of what happened with the movie. It was thinking broader. He was thinking about, well, this is part one of a 2-part movie series. And that's fine. But there is another example, another superhero movie example that did that exact thing much, much better.
You should have gone for the head.
The way that Infinity War ended, it felt like the culmination of several events. And it felt like if that movie had ended right then, it would have still been a complete movie. It would have still been a complete story. It would have been far, far darker, but it would have still been a complete story. And I think that's one of the things when you're thinking about cliffhangers, you need to consider, because you don't want to sit here and think, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep them interested and then they'll come back for the next one. Because like movies, writing books takes time. And so if you're thinking about, well, I'm just gonna be resolving all these things in the next book, you're asking people to wait months, years, perhaps, to get a resolution that was set up and perhaps should have actually been resolved within the first story. I like to think of books now as you need to have a structure or something within the first book that'll make people satisfied when they are done with it, not confused or wanting to move on to the next book immediately to figure out what was going on in the first book. I'm not saying don't have long storylines. I have long storylines. I am done with my second book and there are still storylines to be resolved. But what I learned from my first book is just how badly you can mess up cliffhangers. Because I was actually warned. I was warned by my writing group about what I did wrong. There was another author in my writing group who basically said they were concerned as they were reading my book. They were concerned because they were looking ahead to how many chapters were left and realizing how much was not going to be resolved, how much couldn't be resolved because there just wasn't enough space left. And that's when I tried to, once I got that warning, I tried to fix things the best I could. I tried to mend some of these issues and basically extended the book a little bit, but it still has an issue. And if you read my book, you'll see the issue. You'll see the issue with the cliffhanger. Thankfully, I have the second book out now. And in the second book, I was much more conscious about making the story complete, a full story. And I think this is where something like the 3x structure can actually help you. So if you look at this 3x structure and you kind of figure that, oh, you're going about right here. You're right here with the story in your first book. If you end here, which is kind of what it felt like happened with Across the Spiderverse, it ended here. And that leaves confusion and frustration with a lot of your audience members. It doesn't mean the whole movie is bad. It doesn't mean that it won't be successful. I still love the movie, but I think it's a good example of how even fantastic, wonderful directors and writers can make this mistake. And it's one that's very, very easy to fall into if you are a new writer. Now, no, the 3x structure is not required for writing a book. It is helpful for some people, and for people like me, it's something you'll probably just end up doing subconsciously, which is what happened with my books. But I also realized that I was ending it before I hit that climax, and certainly before the falling action. So what I kind of did was I kind of lopped off the top of that last part of it. I kind of skipped from the climax and then tried to give some falling action just to kind of calm down the book as it wound up to its ending. But I still had all these things that were not resolved. So I think it's a helpful tool to use the 3x structure to kind of gauge where you're at with your story. Can you say that it was completed in it? If there are other structures that you used or liked, please leave them in the comment section down below, because I think it will be helpful to people to see that there are ways to help give some kind of structure and guidance to your writing, which will actually assist you in avoiding this really upsetting cliffhanger where you're just left with questions, more and more questions. Unless you're writing something like a series, like a novella series, or the Kindle Vella that they have now on KDP, I think it's important to keep in mind that you have to reward your readers for reading. And if you are not giving them that reward at the end of the book, whether it's part of a series or not, you're gonna be frustrated. My readers were frustrated. I know this firsthand. In general, that's what this that's a lot what this channel is about, right? It's mistakes that I have made or mistakes that I see, and trying to help you not make those same mistakes that I did. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. We're not going to leave this on a cliffhanger. In fact, I will say, wait, actually, no, hang on. We might leave this on a cliffhanger because I'm about to leave. I'm about to leave and go to a convention. And at that convention, as long as my social anxiety does not get the best of me, I'm going to be asking authors at the convention for some of their advice and hope to make that into a video. So now if I don't do that, then I have let you all down. So oh, fuck. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully it'll be a video that you'll enjoy, and I'll talk to you all later. Thank you so much for watching.